Gentlemen, and we're back. CJ, what are you reading there?
The Canadian Mining Journal. What are you reading?
Well, I'm reading my brand new, most favorite newspaper, the Northern Miner.
Yeah.
What a beautiful piece of print. Man, these are good.
What are you looking at?
Taking a look at this website called mining.com.
Very cool, Josh.
So today's episode, we're going to talk about our brand new acquisition, our very favorite, if we can see this in the thing, the Northern Miner, Canadian Mining Journal, and
Mining.com.
there you go. So, boys, we have a lot to discuss on today's episode. Take people through why the hell we would ever be stupid enough to buy into a newspaper, a website, a media group containing the following. So let's take people through it. What's going on here?
Okay, so to distill the acquisition, we acquired the Northern Miner Group from Glacier Media, and it's been an acquisition well over a year and a half in the works now. Tommy made the initial introduction to their chairman, and from there, Josh and I had deep conversations with Mark and Peter. That's been on and off, and finally we were able to settle on something that was quite beneficial for both sides. So with the acquisition, it comes with the Northern Miner, mining.com, the Canadian Mining Journal, and their events as well. So they have the Global Mining Symposium, and they partnered with the Precious Metal Summits for several things, and it's one of the staples in our space that everyone know. I don't think everyone knew that they were all owned by one group, but it definitely helped us out when we needed to make that acquisition, and we done it as an asset acquisition, so a lot cleaner that way. I think the inception was when we were throwing around the idea of how to make CEO.CA better. Mm-hmm. And, we always had the idea that we needed to educate. We needed reasons why the users should stay on space. And, we always thought about the best way of doing that was putting, good content on the site. And when we went down that wormhole, we realized that it was a very niche space in finding great writers and journalists for that space. And, a lot of the content right now is user driven, and, the content is great, and one of the main reasons why people come to the site, but we kind of wanted to throw fuel on that flame and build out our content that way. So that's how the idea was birthed, and we always knew that it was another way to fulfill our vision of how to give leverage, significant leverage to the metals and mining space for our shareholders.
Yeah, I mean, you can get leverage a couple of different ways. One of them is investing, and the other one is, of course, is like shovel selling, right? Like when you're selling services to that sector, if the sector were to pop, those who shall sell services to that sector, effectively shovel selling, whether you're literally selling picks and shovels and buckets like back in the old days, or in today's modern times, media, marketing, etc. It's an interesting way for us to bolster our exposure to mining markets and increase, as you said, our leverage to the space. And it's nice because it's commodity agnostic, albeit niche. So I mean, it's exciting for me because I think we are clearly demonstrating that we plan on becoming a giant in this industry vis-a-vis distribution and controlling the airwaves of the space.
Yeah, one word, iconic, right? So there's nothing more iconic than I think the Northern Miner in North American mining news. It has been the voice of mining news since 1915. Canadian Mining Journal, as we've talked about, is the longest serving Canadian mining publication since 1882. So these are legacy iconic brands that we're bringing in house, maintaining them as their own. Of course, they'll still be led by Anthony Vaccaro, who's lives and breathes mining, whose veins are deeper than newfound golds. But I think the reality is it's just such an important acquisition for us as we expand our mining footprint leveraging the the traffic we have with CEO, and then now accelerating that with content we never had before on a new platform.
Distribution, all the rest of it.
Yeah. I mean, these are just unbelievable assets, that stand the test of time.
And on the business level, obviously, the cross-marketing opportunities there are significant. Our distribution on CEO.CA and marrying it with the Northern Miners distribution is huge for us. And, a lot of because I would say we have a newer demographic, there has not been a lot of cross-pollination in the past. So that space in itself is going to be a significant business opportunity for us.
When I think about it too, one of the reasons that, what we landed on as we were exploring this internally, like you said, a year and a half ago, we were talking about CEO.CA. I've always envisioned CEO.CA having a news outlet, right? Being a news aggregator. We were talking about sort of curating mining news across the space and packaging it up and delivering it to users so that, there's a certain stickiness with CEO.CA as really the only social media company that's niche specific in this industry. I mean, I think there's only one place where you can go, sign on, and read message after message of shitting on CEOs or, some really well written piece about how great an opportunity may be in retail's eyes. It's a one-stop shop for market sentiment. I don't think it's going anywhere. There's nothing that's going to dethrone CEO from that perspective. It's the only one. I mean, Stockhouse had their billboards. They suck. And let's call a spade a spade. And, ultimately, CEO has the best version of that. And people can come there and read what, some astute investors have to say and what some not so astute investors perceive and observe. And, it's the only place to do that. So as a workflow, if you're investing in this space and evaluating an opportunity, that's a critical step in your workflow. The other critical step is reading about the news, the headlines, what's going on. And mining.com is a fantastic source for that type of information. And one of the interesting things, and so was Northern Miner, and one of the interesting things I think we explored when we were looking at how to build out kind of CEO's news division was about getting writers and trying to get, is that the way to go? Get real journalists, get real people to, generate like generative journalism, right? Not necessarily curating what's out there in the world, actually covering things from the bottom up. And one of the things that's fascinating is that the barrier of entry for a journalist to get into the mining sphere and recognize a piece of news somewhere when they see it, it's a really tough thing to find. And those people are of limited number. That's they have to have some level of domain expertise. They have to have been doing it for long enough to know news when they see it. And what was interesting, I think, when we were exploring this was that one, to do that organically within CEO, and for us to try to nucleate something like that from the scratch was A, very, very difficult, and B, almost impossible in the sense of from a journalistic perspective, finding the journalists to do something like this. When we came across this, how many journalists do they have on staff? Northern Miner Group, let's say, between mining.com and 20?
Yeah, they're coming on with around that. They have
no, I know they're coming on, but I'm just asking how many are on.
Yeah.
How many are in the deck?
Yeah, I would say 20.
20, yeah. So that's a huge number, right? And then they have publications, not just, a lot of their articles get picked up by Reuters. A lot of their articles get picked up across different publications, not just through mining.com or the Miner. So these are real, true, genuine journalists in this space.
And the articles are the go-to, or like retweeted by a lot of the talking heads in the space as well. So it is used as one of those legitimate, objective sources for mining where, they're not going to find it in any other publication. So,
yeah, it's pretty special. So, yeah, from that perspective, I mean, it's great because we get to toot the warp whistle right to, having a legitimate news outlet.
Yeah, we could have gone that route, but how long would that have taken?
Organically?
Yeah.
Oh, forever.
Yeah.
And likely impossible.
Yeah, I mean, they get millions of visitors a month. And so you say, you know, how can we expand on that? Obviously, we're getting millions as well. And so we're, you know, going to be looking at ways of introducing their content directly within CEO. But when you break out the business, they have their print and digital distribution. So, of course, you have the monthly newspaper through Northern Miner. We have, you know, magazines through Canadian Mining Journal. And then obviously their digital distributions, which are expanding across, you know, mining.com. They also have a lot of SaaS, right? So there's a lot of software solutions coming across in the acquisition as well. This is not just print and digital media. Some of the software they're bringing across, they have another product called Marco Polo, similar to our DigiGeo data. So we're looking at resourcing and personnel information across thousands of resources, you know, worldwide. So that's offered as an annual subscription to people as well. So we'll be incorporating that within our packaging and looking at expanding that down the road with some of the DigiGeo data. We're also having, you know, a number of subscriptions across just news as well as data, market data through mining.com and Northern Miner, and then a number of other subscriptions as well. So, you know, our aim was obviously to grow that print and digital distribution, but on a SaaS perspective, there's a lot of upside in some of these subscriptions as well.
And for a data nerd like me, there happens to be one of the coolest, if not the coolest, archive database in existence in this space.
Since 1915.
Since 1915. And like, this is before the internet. Northern Miner was where you got your press releases, where you got your information. I mean, so they have archival data that goes back forever.
Digitized
on
archive.
properties and everything is all digital.
I wonder what kind of properties have fallen through
Tons of stuff. It's
cracks,
falling
eh?
through cracks. Oh, the value of that database alone is unbelievable.
Yeah. I know that a lot of larger players have inquired about that database, but we'll take a little peek these first because we do have a track record of putting together some pretty compelling exploration.
Oh, we can do some great things with that data. Yep. So I think on so many levels, this is such a fantastic acquisition and fits right into our wheelhouse here and what we're trying to build. So why don't we take people through the EarthLabs deck?
Yeah, let's do it.
A lot of it we did mention, but let's go through it a little bit more formal.
Forward-looking statement.
Yep.
There's probably one of these anyways, but let's go.
I think we can reiterate just how big we become in terms of distribution with this acquisition and the ability to cross-market between both of these platforms. There are other groups out there, but in terms of what we're doing in North America, we're the powerhouse now.
Yeah, let's talk about obviously go forward EarthLabs. You know, we're bifurcating the group within, you know, into a media component, our community obviously being CEO, our data component now, which used to be Digi, is now being complemented by Marco Polo. We just talked about that, as well as some of the Northern Miner maps, and then of course our new events business through the Northern Miner. They had a very successful symposium event a few weeks ago in London. They're partnering with the Precious Metals Group that normally does the Beaver Creek Conference. They're launching a new one in Washington next year in November. That they'll be co-leading with that, and there's a number of other events happening as well. And so, you know, as we reflect our new business going forward, this will just help, you know, organize things as well as look at ways to, you know, share resources and create some centralized overhead within the groups to propel them forward.
In terms of the data, especially the archival data, I imagine once we're able to prepare that data in something more presentable, that'll be available on our DigiGeo database.
Absolutely. Yeah, as a separate data layer for subscription.
That'd be the conduit for disbursement of it.
Yeah, they built a custom OCR, so you know it's playing around. Like, I mean, we were typing in lithium and seeing, you know, newspapers from early 1900s talking about lithium discoveries in Canada and looking at things, and there's just so much opportunity there. With
very rich stories too.
Yeah, and all long lost properties that have that no one's aware about now. So it's really cool. It's a treasure trove of information.
And not a significant portion of their business, but we are now the major players in physical maps.
There you go.
I mean, we didn't touch on that earlier. So, of course, you know, our Digi team being Glenn, you know, really the creators of the industry hot play maps. And so we have this iconic brand, Northern Miner, coming over that creates maps as well. And so we'll have the consolidated, foothold in property maps worldwide, for the industry. And it takes our distribution up to over 1 million people that get exposure to these maps. So we're really excited to take that step forward.
Safe to say the only newspaper, the only exclusive print publication in the space?
I would say so. I think if you walk into any office, that's going to be sitting in the reception desk.
Yeah. So much available with that. It's very cool. I mean, we've seen the world go digital, but
Yeah.
there's a certain nostalgia that I love about paper. So anyway,
I think
so. There's something we can do with that.
Okay, so in terms of what we're paying for this, I think, as I said before, it was a win-win on both sides, all in. In terms of cash, it's going to cost us $4 million, $2.5 million upfront, and the remainder kind of tranched out over 2 years. I think, Josh and I have a goal in mind, but we think that we're going to be able to pay off this acquisition in the next year or two, just because of ways that we can leverage the platform that they haven't been able to. And as I said before, we have access to an incredible distribution network that they didn't have access to before as well. So if you think about it, we are the only group that would have been able to take these assets and, squeeze as much out of them as we can, especially in the markets that we're in right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so, we were able to kind of take advantage of the markets and getting a good deal for the assets, but the reality is it's a very, very insignificant portion to what they have in their portfolio. So,
safe to say a lot of low-hanging fruit, ad revenue,
I would say so.
exploitation that we can do early with this that would accelerate its revenue profile.
Yeah, I think that's the first thing that we would cover right off the bat.
Yep.
Yeah, I think just when we look at the subscribers, right, like it's worth mentioning, obviously, CEO.CA, we're a .ca. We've expanded into U.S. stocks, cryptos, Aussie stocks, and London stocks. So, we've expanded out that footprint. And we have a large footprint into Europe, especially into Germany and Australia growing as well, and, of course, U.S. But mining.com, I mean, for what Northern Miner is, the iconic brand for North American mining, mining.com has been, the doorstep for global mining and has a majority global visitor subscription, right? So now we're exposing ourselves, obviously, through the subscribers to hundreds of thousands of new people that may not be aware of CEO, that may not be aware of some of the other things we're doing. And so that opens that up, for us to obviously market some of our subscription packages as well, especially some of the things we're launching with real-time drill holes and other pro subscriptions. Gives us just a whole another avenue of selling to that hyper niche group that we're looking for.
And what's cool about it too is that it may, there might be some really cool ways for CEO users to have specific interaction or heightened interaction with the news that they're reading.
Absolutely.
On mining.com and some of these other
I think
pieces.
We're under no illusions of where people are getting their news these days, and that's primarily what we acquired this for. I mean, we have a distribution unlike anyone else with CEO, and we can bring it to their doorstep instead of dragging people across.
Yep, great. So the audience is huge. I mean, it's really nice to see that we're taking in a lot of new eyeballs with this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, this is just an overview. Obviously, we have a few slides here, overview of each of the assets, and of course, the Northern Miner, has that print and digital distribution. They have a monthly newspaper going out to thousands of people. We have, the maps now, which will be combined with DigiGeo to be the one-stop map solution. They have obviously incredible distribution there added to ours. Marco Polo, which is that data distribution we talked about on the resource side, and of course, their social media, existence is huge.
Yeah.
Right. So across all platforms, which is fantastic. They have a great footprint that they've built, obviously, and a credit to the team that will continue to deliver content every day. And of course, mining.com, the industry's doorstep for global mining news, like CJ said, shared by, Friedland constantly and every other, major mining influencer out there. They have a number of...
Actually, I think Friedland just did a podcast, did he not, with Northern Miner?
It was just at the event as well. Yeah. So you saw the video
was,
there.
The headliner there, and apparently his private plane was grounded, so he had to take commercial, and he still made it because he knew how big the event was and the people that would attend, and just the kind of reach that the Northern Miner has. So,
Great.
And Anthony did a great job interviewing him. And of course, mining.com, in addition to the daily news, has a number of other SaaS products as well with a news and market subscription. They have, some other processes like their buyer's guide, which are great draws. And then, of course, just, 10 plus news digests across different sectors in mining and, over 125,000 subscribers to that. So just a substantial footprint that, we hope to obviously grow even further.
Over 80% of mining.com's visitors are the international visitor versus what we have on CEO.CA.
Which is largely domestic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it opens up a huge market for us. The domain is very important.
Yeah, I love their Twitter domain, which is x.com/mining.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, they must have got that right away when Twitter.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Hell of a domain. And that's goes well. And then, Canada's oldest mining publication.
Yeah, so this one is geared more towards, I guess, development and jobs. They have a cool job section on who's moving around and stuff like that. But, it's kind of the black sheep, but it's one of those things that, has not realized its full potential just because it's always been a very, very insignificant part of Glacier's, greater portfolio. Never really operated with the budget that what we think they deserve. So a lot of cool, potential expansion.
You know what I like about it is that Canadian Mining Journal tends to be some of the articles that I like to read. So I do subscribe to Canadian Mining Journal. And what I like about Canadian Mining Journal is that it gives you these like full-blown sort of exposés on companies and their achievements and what they've done. And you get these sort of almost long form story times about all of these different stories, like when they profile something. And I find that really valuable because we're in this world, which we know all very well, is this whole like little dopamine hit, headline,
TikTok kind of,
low attention span type of, like quick stuff. And Canadian Mining Journal seems to be one of these places where you could write a 10-page story on, dovetailed with an interview, et cetera, about a company, its property, how it came together, where they're at, where they're going, et cetera. And it's nice to have something so long form. They do a really good objective job of doing it. Mm-hmm. There's not a whole lot of promotional anything in there. It's all very, objective and, high integrity.
Absolutely.
I'm excited about the conferences and symposiums just because, this is me with my business hat on. It's just the ability to sell that many more ads and then another product to add on top of that. And so when you start packaging this, it becomes a lot more compelling for an issuer to take that product because of what we can offer. And obviously, getting as many eyeballs on your story is very important, especially if you're a small little illiquid, newer-ish company or a lot of these microcaps, one of the huge problems they have is getting eyeballs and visibility on their story. And that's why, having ads on our distribution is so important or, versus paying hundreds of thousands to a promoter that doesn't really work because you're working with an exhausted email list. And, after 10 years, a lot of these guys don't have that kind of pull anymore. So having the ability to, almost guarantee them a certain amount of traffic is big. And, these symposiums are becoming bigger and bigger because I think people want to attend them just because you're with a lot of like-minded people. You're seeing companies maybe that you haven't seen before. But so we're excited about this. They're gaining a lot of traction. It's very well attended, and you should see the people that want to come and speak at these conferences. It's not like they're paying them to attend. They know that the caliber of people and and companies that attend these conferences. So, this is it. It was never one of the main reasons why we acquired these assets, but we became a lot more excited when we realized the potential, what they're coming as, but as the potential as well.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think what reinforces the value of this in some ways is like when we look at what happened with COVID, because with COVID, everybody went to these like Zoom conferences and digital conferences, which I think sort of showed us the colossal failure and the limited potential of virtual shows in some ways. So it's kind of cool that these guys are more classic, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure they had a virtual component too when they did it, through that period. But the reality is that people do want to get together. They do want to get together with like-minded folk, and they want to talk, and they want to meet the CEOs, and they want to meet, there's that sort of, even with offices, everybody going virtual and going out of the office space, coming back and plugging in and water cooler talk and getting back in the office. There's something to be said about it, right? So I kind of feel the same way with with money movements and conferences and investing. In some ways, it depends where you are in that curve, but I think there's value, and it's something that's not going to go away.
Yeah, I mean, these guys are leaders in thought leadership, right? So there's no comparison when it comes to the Northern Miner Symposiums and any other conference out there today. And there are a lot of mining conferences, but these are the top names in mining. They are consistently coming back. Mm-hmm. They're expanding out the events into some more one-to-one and other meeting components. That number speaks for itself on the slide. 18,000 delegates over 4 years have attended these. So, they're extremely well attended. They are, consistently sold out. This is where people want to be. And so we're going to be expanding that. And we talked about this earlier, partnering with the new Energy Transition Conference in Washington as well next year. There'll be additional other symposiums that will be announced. People are craving for this kind of content and this access to these kind of caliber of mining talent, so that will continue.
Cool.
Yeah, I think this slide speaks for itself. When we look at the peer group, of course we're not including some others here, but when we look at just a print and digital media component, just including Northern Miner, mining.com, and Canadian Mining, excluding CEO for a second, are substantially larger than any other peer group in terms of traffic to the sites. And so when we start including CEO, it just shows you the substantial size of the organization go forward, which we're really excited about.
Yeah, I think this kind of just summarizes what we all spoke about. Like we're we want to give significant leverage, and this is another way to give significant leverage. If you look at the divisions that we now operate within, they're all going to be able to play off each other that much more, providing that much more leverage. So we are leverage on top of leverage to the metals and mining space. And that's what we want to give exposure to our shareholders too. So, I think in the background through our media space now, we're showing that we're working hard in the background and growing that out, but also with our portfolio. And I don't sleep on our royalties as well, because those are going to be worth big money in the future.
Yeah, I know it's a really interesting Frankenstein that we've built here. That's in many ways, I just get more and more excited every day. Between the investment portfolio, the synergies there with the marketing side of it, the distribution, the shovel selling, the fact that we're a closed-end fund, basically publicly traded, no redemptions, the likelihood of all of this stuff at some point manifesting into, net cash flow, positive cash spitting ATM machines to recharge our coffers on the investing side. I think it's a fantastic blend of businesses that can have a beautiful, offer investors with a totally different way to play the space. Mm-hmm. As you said, leverage. It's leverage in the pick and shovels and selling things, and it's leverage on the investing side. So really exciting.
I think this this slide shows you the revenue that CEO.CA is doing right now, combining that with our new acquisition, what we're forecasting, how we're going to do by the end of the year, and what we're going to do in 2024. And obviously that amount, we used a fairly conservative estimate, but a lot of this money is earmarked to go back to growing out CEO.CA, but the vision is for this side of the business, what you mentioned before, to replenish the coffers in need be. But once we have, a stabilized amount of cash flow or revenues coming in, we're able to make money off of it, then we can decide what we're going to do with that excess cash. And, the possibilities Obviously, we want to return that back to the shareholders, but it's important to remember that we consider ourselves a growing business, and any opportunity that we have to give that additional leverage to our shareholders, we'll take that first and foremost
Yep.
into our mind. But that would be really cool that milestone year where we have that stabilized cash flow and we can start returning that back to our shareholders. But that's in the future for now.
I'm going to Babe Ruth it and say next year is our pivotal year on that.
Like in
That's
terms
ambitious.
Yeah.
But I think next year is our year. I think next year we're looking at positive cash coming out of all these business lines. Maybe not DigiGeo yet, because it's still
Well, it was part of our bigger part.
like as part of the consortium.
Yeah.
But I think next year the consortium spits off.
What's cool is that we
Reasonable
finally
free cash flow.
acquired an actual business and not a product this time around.
A project.
Oh
Yeah.
Yeah.
Products, not projects. Yeah.
Project.
It's our t-shirts.
Yeah.
We're gonna make that a t-shirt. Buy products, not projects.
projects.
Yeah. Jeez.
There'll be some projects in here though, but it's fun.
Yeah. Well, we're entrepreneurs first and foremost. This is a cool little line. This is for any company that's broken out their expenses in a marketing and advertising line, but this kind of shows you how much people are willing to spend in that regards. And we're not saying we're going to corner all of this, but there's a lot of mining companies that need ads.
Yep.
And they want the most bang for the buck, and we're definitely offering the most bang for our buck considering our distribution and the caliber of people that visit and frequent our sites, whether it be social media or the media side now. But it's a big space that we haven't even scratched the surface on. Like if you look at the revenue numbers, it's a small percentage of what people are actually going to be spending. And as we enter into a bull market, their budget to spend is only going to increase.
Well, look at the more. I think I don't think it's a linear correlation with the acquisitions. I think when you start to diversify and grow your distribution network, I think you'll have an asymmetrical exposure, increased capture of that 180K per pop.
Mm-hmm.
I think you may have it kind of straight lined across of what we may think to get, but when you're an issuer now looking to spend money on marketing and distribution, and you have all of those outlets in one place, you're more likely to get some of that money, if not, a larger chunk of it than normal. So an outsized portion of it.
Agreed.
So I think it's going to be interesting for us. I know that we were conservative with our estimates, but I think we're going to be surprised with how much of that we capture.
Yeah. So that's the acquisition in a nutshell. Over a year and a half in the work. So you can, we're super excited that we're finally able to announce something of this caliber. I know a lot of people wanted more news flow, but we're working hard in the background, growing out our business lines. And
I do think we should have Anthony on, a future episode. I mean, he does a lot of fantastic ideas of where they want to take the Northern Miner in terms of some of the news aggregation, working in some AI as well, into advancing the way that news is distributed. And so I think that'd be helpful for people to understand and look at some of the ways that we're going to be integrating that within CEO.
So one of the questions I think people may ask is, why would Glacier sell this to us? First of all, why would Glacier sell it?
I think, we worked hard to build a relationship first, right? It was never for sale. So it was a cold reach out, and thanks again to Tommy for making that introduction. He knows everyone in Vancouver. So when I first inquired about it, it was a direct email, warm lead right to their chairman, who then made the introduction.
Well, how much revenue
Mark,
does Glacier do a year?
They do around 130, 140. So it's a very small,
right?
So it's insignificant to them.
Abysmally small portion of their business.
They have bigger fish to fry.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, they're across all sectors.
Yeah.
Right. So.
And
so mining is such a small,
and they were very clear that even though they do treat it as a business, they wanted to make sure that not very hokey or corny to say, but the integrity of the papers were left intact. And obviously, we weren't going to go do there and change anything. We're keeping the team. Anthony's still in place. It's just that the opportunity for us to cross market was there, and we knew that we were able to do things that they're not able to do, especially since this is a space that we concentrate in, and we have the specialty in, especially in terms of marketing.
Yeah, we have a mandate.
Yeah,
for keeping this a focal point.
So I don't know if they had any other buyers on the docket. They never went through that formal exercise, but we were there because we built that relationship first. We got to know the team, and we made them obviously what they thought was a fair offer when it was all said and done.
Yeah, no, I think it is. I think it is fair, and I think it's a phenomenal discovery for us to I know, like you, we were shocked when we saw how many publications, like what was exactly included within Glacier's larger.
Yeah, they did a great job in
envelope.
Aggregating.
Yeah, they aggregated a hell of a basket. Yeah. And it was interesting that it was just sitting there kind of thing in, what otherwise you sort of had to dig a bit to find out that's where it all was. And no, it's really interesting. And then, of course, you think, well, what's the company worth? Glacier, like a couple $100 million?
No, they're
what's their market cap?
I think last time I checked was like $30 million.
Okay.
They might as well be a private company,
right?
They're owned majority by a private equity group. So,
right, yeah. They have a kind of a strange ownership there. Yeah. Anyways, it was interesting because it wasn't, I don't think we were too sure of whether or not we would be able to get this out of there.
Yeah. It wasn't easy.
No, it wasn't easy. It took a lot of time, but really, really exciting.
Okay. So I imagine this will be published within our channel, and a lot of questions will be firing our way, and we'll answer as much as we can.
Yeah. Well, I think when this goes live, the deal will have been announced that morning.
Correct.
So that's exciting. So this is being recorded on Tuesday the 23rd, I think. What's the date today? 24th.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. Tuesday the 24th. That's what we are today. Anything else we want to chat about on the old Crash Labs, or we want to just keep it this and
let's just keep it focused.
Reconvene next week and revisit. We got to get some new guests on here. We kind of we went sideways for a bit here. Get this thing back on track.
We got some good ones from Beaver Creek, but that inventory has since been depleted.
Yeah, we've been. It's funny. I think there's still a couple of reserve things, but we got to get back into it. And then we had so much interest.
Yeah,
it was interesting. Like after we did the Jerry Butts one, and after we did, who else did we do that was crazy?
Warren got a lot.
Warren got a lot of views. No, but after we did George Ogilvy and Jerry Butts, there was like hundreds of inbounds for like, I want to get on there. I want to, and lots of great, things. So we got to revisit that and start getting some of these guys in here
for sure
and talking. I wonder, I want to do the deal room thing again.
Yeah, I think it's really hard because you're like, I can't wait for that one issue to come down and be like, I'm going to do it. Right? Like lay it all on the table. A lot of these guys are very scared of coming on and us just poo-pooing the deal and totally derailing everything that they work. Right?
Publicly derailing their money.
If you believe in your story, come on.
Yeah. I think we don't bite, and I think it's helpful. Like if you believe in your story and you think it's good, you should want to come on. Like I would fucking want to come on here.
Yeah.
With NFG.
Yeah, I would.
If I was raising dough for NFG, I would.
Yeah,
be here.
why not?
Like let's talk about it. Yeah, what do you want to know? Right? Yeah, so there's that. And then we got to do like an educational series too.
NFG is different from like a lithium guy in Ontario, and he's like, "Oh, I want like why?"
Yeah.
Why?
Well, I get a lot of questions. Like, so I like obviously like buddies and people we know, whatever, and they'll ask, what's a warrant? Explain to me why that matters. Like, what is that all about? What's this? What's that? And I think we should go back to, carving out the time and doing a bunch of these like shorter snippets of educational series. Like, I'd be happy to do it with all topics of geology, like geophysics and various things, right? Geochemistry, geophysics. I can talk about prospecting, staking claims, doing all these sorts of things, right? And just sort of do like little, almost like a short course. I think it'd be really fun. And I think it'd be timeless if we did it. So that's something we should look at.
Okay.
Anyway,
bring in an expert to talk about that as well, or you going?
Yeah,
through
we can.
what
I
you
mean,
went through
we
and
can
stuff like that?
do it ourselves. Yeah, I think it would look at the whole finance dictionary. It'd be worth doing.
Yeah.
I think the audience would appreciate it.
So,
Right.
how do you think our stock is going to respond to this big news?
It won't move.
Whoa,
I don't think it'll move.
I'm saying it's up.
That's a big call.
Oh, I don't think it'll move. I don't think people care.
Really?
Yeah,
Just because of the general market right now.
Yeah, the general market. I mean, look at. I think, guys. I think we have to show. Like, this acquisition is amazing, and there's going to be people out there that should, like, do I think people should care? Yes, I think people should care. Do I think people will care? No. That doesn't say much about what I think about people and what they think, right?
Yeah.
But the reality is that it's not because, it's because I think people just need to see
Yeah.
the results of it. Like you need to put up or shut up. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, you got to put up the numbers. Put out once they see the touch and feel maybe revenue, they touch and feel maybe some, the business taking shape. They look at the balance sheet, et cetera, and they can touch and feel that. It was the same way with Spot.
Yeah.
It was the same way with Gold Spot before the ALS deal. Like, when we were, telling the story never changed, right? And then there was all the doubters, and nobody gave it, anything. But then when we started to really put it up, right? They saw the revenue growing. They saw the balance sheet. They saw the, the earnings. They saw the, quarter over quarter growth, year over year growth, and then it was undeniable.
Yeah,
right?
Fair enough.
And I think that, it's much the same as the DNA of an exploration story. You can drill one hole, and everybody gets super excited about one hole.
Mm-hmm.
But once you start beating people over the head with good holes, I mean, eventually they're going to pay attention. Eventually they're going to care. This is still tough for people to grapple, because are you a royalties company? Are you an investment issuer? Are you a media corporation? Are you a technology company? Which one of these are you? And we want to fit you into a box and appraise you accordingly. And it's really hard to do that with this.
Mm-hmm.
It's also hard to market, like and rightfully so. Some of our CEO crowd has pointed this out fair and well, which is like, they've equated us to like Jack Stock and my critiques of Jack Stock's business, which is Globex, yeah. And, about it being a private company or being a public company, but odd in this way, like almost a private, and, for a litany of reasons. And, they've said, well, Denny, like, are you on drug? No, because I'm making that observation about Jack Stock doesn't mean that I can't look in the mirror and see the very same things reflected back at me in our business. Of course I see those things.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not talking about our business. I'm talking about his business.
Yeah.
Right. But at the end of the day, it doesn't mean that I think he has a bad business. Right. So in our case, I think what's difficult with us is that I don't know, part of the formula with Spot, which we knew, was when we had exploration success through partnerships with clients. So when we would get in there and get our technology and our team involved, and we started to Babe Ruth some targets, and then they would drill and validate those targets, let's say, that becomes a news release for us as much as it's a news release for them. And so we had this machine of news flow that was tangentially beneficial to us when someone else would put a piece of news out that was a company we were working closely with, especially if they were drilling a target that we pointed out for them that they didn't know about, things like that. So that's interesting. Much the same as like with Jack Stock, I guess in some cases, he joint ventures a project and that project turns out to be, successful. There's a trickle down effect onto him. But with this one, we don't have that same news potential.
Yeah. That accompanied by investors or potential investors trying to paint us like they want to compare us to something, and what you said, we're Frankenstein. Like what is there to compare us to at this point?
Yeah, here's the thing. We're not stupid.
Yeah.
So we've looked at all of these businesses. We've looked at all the ways to make money in this business. And we've ripped our favorite pages out. of every book.
Yep.
We ripped a little page out of the royalties book. We ripped a little page out of the investment issuers book, a little marketing book. Boom. And we wrote our own book. It's like a bunch of glued together favorite pages of businesses that we like, and we figured out how to do it. And so that's what makes us special. It's hard to market, but there'll come a time, you know? And I think it'll be the same thing. It'll be once, you know, we're going to have some dumpster fire explosion in our stock based on repeated success, you know, whether it's a couple of names in our portfolio, some lightning strikes, whether all of a sudden everybody signs up, we've got recurring revenue coming through, you know, out of our ears from subscriptions on CEO and or any of these platforms, let's say. You know, there's all kinds of these, you know, lightning strike potentials within our pipeline that can happen. And so in the meantime, yeah, it's kind of boring.
Build it and they will come.
Build it and they will come.
Yeah.
Yeah, Field of Dreams. Let's go.
There you
Let's
go.
go.
So with that, we'll see everyone next week.
Thank you.